Hello everybody, welcome to the video. Today's Blue Sports vid is going to be a little bit different because I have an educational obligation for this one. My English class required me to make a multimodal presentation, so naturally, I decided to cheat the system and make a YouTube video that falls into my schedule perfectly. This video is going to be filled with a lot more visuals, a lot more stats, really diving in depth for this one because I want a good grade in my English class and I just want it to be over so I can move on with my life. I spent a long time preparing for this video, and I'm going to spend probably just about as long editing it with all the visuals that I'm gonna put in. So as high quality as this video is, I cannot do this on a consistent basis, and it's honestly just more fun to free flow it like I usually do with my common knowledge and brushing up on some articles that I don't have to fact check and put into a 3-page works cited thing that I have to send in separately with this video. So anyways, this is for an English project. I'm pulling out all the stops in this one because I want a good grade. I will let you guys enjoy the video now. Peace out. The 2021 Major League Baseball season for the Chicago Cubs was, in a sentence, painful, but promising. While the World Series team from 2016 lost most of their core players to what I personally refer to as the devastation of the trade deadline, they still displayed lots of promise for years to come. Despite losing most of the familiar faces of the team and finishing 20 games under 500 in the 2021 season, the Chicago Cubs are in a position to surprise some people next season. I'm not saying that they win another World Series this year. That would just be naive of the diehard Cubs fan of me to think. But they have the tools they need to build a really strong team. Along with my own common knowledge and the knowledge of Marquee Network and some MLB insiders like Jordan Bastion, I compiled some information and concluded that the Cubs are definitely in a position to surprise some people next year with the roster that they have put together now and some potential things that they could add to it. Chicago Cubs president of baseball operations Jed Hoyer said it himself at his end-of-season press conference. The #1 priority for the Cubs this offseason is acquiring better pitching. The Cubs finished with a .487 team ERA last season. ERA stands for earned run average and is how many runs you give up per 9 innings. That .487 ERA was the 4th worst in Major League Baseball, so yeah, the Cubs have got to get better at that. Fortunately, the Cubs have lots of options, both in-house and on the free agent market. Kyle Hendricks has been the ace for the Cubs starting rotation for a few years now, and that is expected to stay the same. Last year, he won 14 games for the Cubs and pitched 181 innings, which ranked 16th in Major League Baseball. Hendricks knows what it takes to win, as he was part of that 2016 World Series team. The rest of the starting rotation for the Cubs is up for debate, but the general consensus is that Zach Davies, the #3 starter for the Cubs from last season, will be allowed to hit free agency, and with the holes left by #2 and #4 starters Jake Arrieta and Trevor Williams respectively, the Cubs have holes to fill, the leading candidates being Alec Mills, Albert Alzolay, Justin Steele, and Keegan Thompson. Mills notched a no-hitter against the Milwaukee Brewers in 2020, and the aforementioned 3 pitchers have shown promise in moderate sample sizes and will definitely get a chance to prove their worth next season. As far as the bullpen goes, which is the pitchers that come in after the starters leave, there is some promise coming back to the pen with the Wicks and Cody Hoyer. Hoyer had some impressive numbers last year after he got traded from the White Sox to the Cubs, which you can see here in some of his first starts. The Wicks had their injury troubles last year, but they will undoubtedly go back to their former form of greatness and be a leading force in the bullpen. Other arms likely to come back to the bullpen next year include Rex brothers Tommy Nance and Manny Rodriguez. Rodriguez was a rookie last season, and although he struggled in limited action, he has a cannon arm and is really good in the lower right corner of the zone. Rodriguez has been mentioned as a candidate for the closer role that was left when Craig Kimbrell was traded to the White Sox, and he will undoubtedly get a chance to get more saves as he notched 1 last year. A big hope among Cubs fans, that's me, in case you haven't figured it out already, is that the $113 million of estimated cap space that the team has will be used primarily on starting pitching, maybe a bullpen arm in there. The free agent class for this offseason for starting pitchers is absolutely loaded. Former champions and seasoned veterans on that list include Max Scherzer and Clayton Kershaw, who would be excellent candidates to come to Chicago for a reasonable price and pass on their knowledge to some of the younger pitchers on staff. There have also been rumors swirling around recently that the Cubs might pick up a high-value shortstop. Names that have been thrown around in that conversation are Carlos Correa and Trevor Story. Personally, I think we have more than enough shortstop depth, which leads me to my next point. The infield. The Cubs core of Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez, and Chris Bryant all left the city within 24 hours last year during the trade deadline, which still hurts immensely to this day, making the only returning player from the opening day roster from the infield David Bowie. Now, David Bowie isn't going to be an all-star or put up numbers from a video game, but he has been invaluable to the Cubs with his time with the team. He has had numerous clutch moments and can play virtually anywhere you want him to play on the infield. The Cubs signed him to a contract extension in 2019, which gives him the potential to stay with the club through 2026, which tells you all you need to know about how much the Cubs value him. And perhaps the biggest point of excitement for next season for Cubs fans is the combination of Schwisdom, Patrick Wisdom, and Frank Schwindel. Both of these players technically had their rookie seasons last year, but they did not put up rookie numbers. As you can see, they took home a lot of hardware. 3 out of 6 months in the Major League Baseball season, they took home Rookie of the Month. Let that sink in. With Wisdom at the hot corner at third base and Frank Schwindel at first, that leaves the middle portion of the infield with shortstop and second base, which will presumably be filled by Nick Madrigal at second and Nico Hoerner at shortstop. Both players have had moderate sample sizes in the majors as far as playing time, and they both have a lot to improve on, but Nico Hoerner batted over 300 in 44 games last season, and Nick Madrigal, in his time with the White Sox before he got traded to the Cubs, had a 317 average and a 299 average in a 2-strike count, which is a huge skill to have as a major leaguer. You have to foul off tough pitches to stay alive in an at-bat, especially on 2 strikes, and that is a skill that Madrigal has shown that he has. We'll likely see a 3-man rotation of Madrigal, Bowie, and Hoerner between the 2 middle infield positions for the 2022 season. Assuming that there will be injuries. There are always injuries. The Cubs have solid depth in their infield beyond the 5 players that I just mentioned. Players who will be fighting for bench spots on the infield next season include Sergio Alcantara, Alfonso Rivas, Christopher Morel, and Trent Jambroni. And out of that group of 4, Sergio Alcantara by far had the most games in the majors with 95 last year. And he was hot and cold at times, but he filled that bench spot well when other players got bitten by the dreaded injury bug. Rivas got called up to the majors toward the end of last season and posted solid numbers in a small sample size. In 18 games, he posted a .318 batting average that amounted to 14 hits. And while he might not see much playing time next year, he may have a chance to make a name for himself if, say, Frank Schwindel was injured at first base. Christopher Morel has been climbing the ladder in the minor leagues and will likely move up to AAA Iowa to start next season. In 101 games with AA Tennessee last season, he had a respectable 64 RBI, that's runs batted in, which is a coveted stat among major leaguers. Trent Jambroni has room for improvement as he posted a 174 batting average in 72 games with AAA Iowa, but he saw 5 games of big league action last year, and I'm sure he'll be hungry to get that taste of big league ball again. As far as catchers next season, that may be more up in the air than most people think. The most prominent Cubs player left after the trade deadline last season was World Series champion and 2-time All-Star Wilson Contreras. Contreras battled some injuries last year, but he still put up solid numbers in a respectable 128 games with 21 homers and 57 RBI, which is solid for a catcher. Contreras is under club control for 1 more year, which makes him a prime trade piece in the baseball world. Only having 1 year left on your contract gives teams leverage to do what they want with that player for that year. However, Contreras has openly stated, numerous times I might add, that he wants to get a new deal done with the Cubs, which can make for an interesting storyline going into next year. Whether Contreras is there or not, at least 1 more catcher will be on the opening day roster, candidates including Robinson Chirinos, PJ Higgins, and Miguel Amaya. Robinson Chirinos emerged as a clubhouse leader after the trade deadline last season. He is 38 years old and a free agent going into the 2022 season, but his veteran presence in the dugout with a young team could prove valuable in the long run should the Cubs choose to re-sign him. PJ Higgins saw a little bit of playing time in the majors last year due to other catchers getting injured, but he struggled immensely, batting a dismal .043 43 in just 9 games. However, he looked strong in a small sample size at AAA Iowa and posted a .333 batting average in 11 games played there. Higgins is the prime candidate to back up Wilson Contreras on the opening day roster. Miguel Amaya has battled a lot of injuries in the minors, including an arm/elbow injury from last year, and he only played 23 games last year at AA Tennessee. However, he logged 13 RBI, which is a respectable stat in that amount of time, and has always shown solid defense when playing. So he will definitely have time to develop in the minors and become a promising young catcher for the Cubs. Now, before I go into what the outfield may look like, I will mention that many of the players I've already mentioned in this video have at least some experience playing outfield positions in the majors, and they occasionally start in the outfield. I will include them right there. The general consensus is the opening day starting outfielders will be, from left field to right field, Rafael Ortega, Ian Happ, and Jason Hayward. Ortega was the shining star in the gloomy night for Cubs fans after the devastation hit Chicago at the trade deadline, as he had a 3-home run game out of the break and was one of the hottest players in the league for a decent stretch of time, as you can see. Ian Happ has had his good times and bad times with the Cubs, but he notched an MVP vote in the shortened 2020 season and posted a fairly respectable stat line in 2021 with 25 homers and 66 RBI in 148 games played. Jason Hayward isn't going to wow you with the bat, but he certainly will with his 5-time Gold Glove winning defense. He's been a beloved clubhouse leader with the Cubs since 2016 and will likely be one again. As far as bench spots for outfielders, the Cubs have lots of options, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But the most intriguing player, at least in my opinion, to fill a spot on the outfield bench is Michael Hermosillo. Hermosillo played very well at AAA this year, putting up an average of .306, 10 homers, and 29 RBI in just 46 games. And he also put up solid numbers when he was called up to the big leagues, 3 homers and 7 RBI in just 16 games. Hermosillo may see a solid amount of playing time in left field with Rafael Ortega's struggles against left-handed pitchers. Hermosillo batted .313 against left-handed pitchers in the minor leagues compared to Ortega's .128 average in the majors. Other options off the bench may include Trace Thompson, Greg Dykman, Nick Martini, John Schwiefargas, and Brennan Davis. Despite being 30 years old, Thompson clawed his way up to the majors and logged 4 homers, 9 RBI, and a modest .250 batting average in just 15 games, earning himself some consideration for a roster spot next year. Greg Dykman was part of the Andrew Chafin trade before the trade deadline in 2021, and despite a weak performance in his 14 games played, is regarded as a strong minor league prospect who could blossom into a promising young outfielder. Nick Martini bounced back and forth between AAA and the major leagues last year, but he has veteran experience and was a valuable piece for the Cubs when players went down with injuries, and he filled their shoes. Janesh Schwiefargas only played a combined 41 games in the Cubs organization last season, but still batted a modest .241 between AAA and the majors. Fargas will have another chance to show his worth in spring training in February. Brennan Davis, who is widely regarded as the best minor league prospect in the Cubs system, was named the Cubs Minor League Player of the Year and has climbed the minor league prospect leaderboards at rapid speed. Davis played at all 3 levels of minor league ball last year, and between those 3 levels, he had a .260 batting average, 25 doubles, 19 homers, and 53 RBI in 99 games. And in his 100th game, he claimed MVP of the All-Star Futures game, which is an exhibition game to showcase the best players in minor league baseball every year. Davis hit 2 home runs that day. Davis has a solid shot at the opening day roster and will almost certainly crack the roster at some point during the season. This is the dawn of a new era of Cubs baseball. New faces are stepping up. Old faces will use their knowledge to better the younger players, and the Cubs have a sufficient amount of money to sign talent to help them shock the baseball world next season. While another World Series title may be far away, hopefully not 108 years far away, all teams need to start somewhere, and the Cubs have everything they need. Thank you for listening to my breakdown on the Cubs' potential for the 2022 season.